The mighty Tigers with pitching, defense, and a few timely hits. Tonight, the struggling Cubs are in town, and their #1 starter on the mound. No time to catch your breath. Game 1 coming your way on MASN. Nationals took care of the Tigers. Now it's time to take care of the Cubs. Chicago in for 3. Nats have dominated them in recent years. There's our old buddy, 40-40 man from 06. Alfonso Soriano and Ryan Zimmerman, of course. That year was his first full year in the big leagues. Bob and FP, welcome to D.C. And a ball club playing well, 4 in a row, 6 of the last 7. And the Nats are doing this lately against some really good ball clubs.
Yeah, ever since Davey Johnson's meeting, the Nats haven't lost a baseball game. And you knew it was only a matter of time before a team with so much talent settled in. The last 13 games, they've been playing good teams and beating them. And that was the question early in the season. They were beating the Marlins, and everybody knew that. But all of a sudden, you're starting to beat some teams over 500. They're doing it with pitching. I think the offense still hasn't really clicked, but the starting pitching and the relievers have been lights out.
Yeah, the overall staff now is up to 3rd in the league at 3.47. In the month of May, the Nats bullpen has not given up a run. They've given up only 10 hits. They have been unflappable, and that guy's closing them out almost every night.
Well, they haven't been untuckable because Rafael Soriano has been lights out of that bullpen, and the bullpen in general has basically been carrying this ball club over the last couple of weeks.
All right, Ross Detwiler tonight against the Cubs. Ross, a lot of hits, not that many runs, but it seems like he hasn't been the same since he threw that 107-pitch game down in Miami.
He's actually been overthrown a little bit, cutting his fastball, trying to start it away. It's been cutting back down to the middle of the plate, so elevated last time. And I feel like it's only a matter of time before he needs to go to that curveball changeup combination. They've been all over his fastball.
3 consecutive starts at only 5 innings per, 1 and 3. He should be a lot more with that 2.50 ERA. Brought to you by Navy Federal Credit Union. 4 million members, 4 million stories. Navy Federal Credit Union. And by Ocean City, Maryland. Visit OCOcean.com. Click on Lucky Summer of 13, special deals and discounts. last year, September 3rd through 6th, 2-1, 11-5, 9-1, 9-2. The Nats hammered 15 home runs in that 4-game sweep of the Cubs, and they've beaten them 7 of the last 8 here at Nationals Park. Train's celebrating its 100th anniversary by offering irresistible financing. It's hard to stop a train, really hard. Comfortable evening, some cloud cover, but we're going to have a big crowd in the house tonight. The Nationals are averaging right around 32,000 a game. Anthony Rizzo for the Cubs. I think San Diego, if they don't already, will regret the day they let this young man get away. 4th in homers, 6th in RBIs, leads the league in extra base hits. And he's a very good left-handed hitter. He's a good first baseman. And he's a cornerstone player the Cubs can build around for years to come. They're only hitting .242 and a lot lower than that on the road. So maybe a good matchup for Ross Detwiler. 3 career starts against Chicago. 2-1 with a 2.60 ERA.
Yeah, last time out Friday against the Pirates, he got the 3-1 loss, allowed 3 runs on 6 hits over 5 innings, struck out 5. Walked 2. He's a victim of a couple home runs. One to Andrew McCutchen, solo shot, and Jordy Mercer hit a 2-run job as well. Through 84 pitches, 51 for strikes. So 2-seam fastball, 4-seam fastball, curve change. The Cubs will see tonight from Ross Detwiler.
Angel Hernandez crew in town. He's the crew chief. He has home plate. First pitch of the ball game. It is a strike, says Hernandez. And we're underway at 7:06.
Let's play ball.
2-time All-Star Starlin Castro had a 14-game hitting streak earlier this year. Right now hitting .269. And Ross misses. He hit almost .320 during that streak from April 6th through the 22nd. And he's cooled off, but he is 3 for 6 career against the Nats left-hander. Wide open stance. His front foot is nearly out of the side of the batter's box when he sets up. But this kid can play. 23 years of age. Signed with the Cubs 7 years ago. This is his 4th full year in the big leagues. Watch where that front foot goes. Way out there. He'll hit one to right. He will drop it. Fair. Bernardina hustles over. Roger digs it out. And Castro has a series leadoff double.
Well, you talked about where his foot was, but where it ends up is perfectly square. You see the fastball in the outer half, and Starlin Castro with a great swing staying on that 2-seam fastball from Ross Detwiler. Actually a ball, but good extension. Covered the outer half. Leadoff double for the Cubs.
7th double of the year for him. He has 11 extra base hits. And next up is Cody Ransom. Remember that name from some days with the Giants and with Houston, Philadelphia, Arizona last year, and then Milwaukee. And the Cubs just picked him up on waivers April 16th from San Diego. He was 0 for 11 in 5 games with the Padres, and they put him on waivers, and the Cubs grabbed him. 37-year-old infielder from Mesa, Arizona. .93 for Ross to get the count back even, 1-1 against a hitter who's 0 for 7 career against him.
Yeah, Ross Detwiler this year has thrown that fastball 91% of the time, and you can tell when he's got the good sink on the 2-seamer. You see a lot of right-handed hitters tapping balls foul down the right field line, down the first base line. And it's only a matter of time before he's going to have to go to that curveball changeup combination to get him off the fastball.
93 upstairs. Ransom when reaching.
Well, Ransom trying to move the runner right now. Starlin Castro looking for something on the outer half, but Ross Detwiler, good late life on that heater, up in the zone, couldn't get on top.
Cody Ransom's been a bit of a find for the Cubs. 9 games, 9 hits, 3 of them home runs and 4 RBIs. Cubs are 13-21, 8.5 back of St. Louis. On the road, they're 6-10. They have a potent 3-4 combination with Anthony Rizzo next, and then Alfonso Soriano. And behind that, you might have seen his name on the lineup. Nat killer Scott Hairston. 2-2 pitch. Another fastball, way high.
They're trying to get that release point right now, that arm slot up with everything. And I think last time out against the Pirates didn't pitch poorly. You give up 3 runs, you're going to win a lot of major league games. But the offense hasn't been behind Ross Detwiler yet this year. And I feel like for the most part, the fastball was up against Pittsburgh last time out.
And a 3-2 pitch. Hit hard and foul. You know, and as we go through this weekend, it bears repeating what we talked about during the Detroit series. Every starter throwing now is on that extra day of rest as well. So maybe Ross a little jumpy at the start, trying to get over the top of that fastball and just kind of get a rhythm going here.
Good call.
Been about a week since these guys have pitched. 3-2.
Well, when he's down there like that, 93 miles an hour, this is where Ross Detwiler wants to be with the fastball, and this is where all the ground balls occur, right there with that pitch.
Couple of shortstops right there, and good ones, Castro and Desmond. 8th pitch of the at-bat coming to Cody Ransom. Little tapper. There's a play at third, but Ross didn't like the possibility. Castro runs well. He would have had to launch that immediately, and that's a high-risk play early in a ball game. So he gets the out. Runner at third.
Yeah, good decision. You don't want a big inning right out of the gate if you're Ross Detwiler. Took a peek, thought better of it. I think you saw right there in the exchange. Didn't really have the ball in his hand. Didn't get it cleanly out of his glove. Let's see if this angle shows it a little better. They were in the exchange, a little bobble, and that was all it took. Take the out that's given to you, and Cody Ransom getting the job done nicely there. That's as good as a bunt.
Lefty-lefty matchup now with big, strong Anthony Rizzo. This young man's only 23 years of age. He'll pull it for an RBI to the right side. Espinosa gets there, and he's able to square himself up for a very difficult throw. 2 outs, good play. Cubs on the board.
Good baseball right there by the Cubs. Little execution style here in the top of the first. Leadoff double, get him over. Anthony Rizzo, simple ground ball to second that turned into a little bit of an adventure because of where it was placed. Danny Espinosa having to go far to his left. Little stutter step right there in the start. Spin move, throw right on the money to Adam LaRoche. Nice play.
And it's a good thing Adam LaRoche didn't go for that ball, because Ross Detwiler never made it to first base. Here's Alfonso. An 06 season over at RFK Stadium that was really one for the ages when he hit 277, 46 homers, 41 stolen bases, 95 RBIs. I don't think he's ever fulfilled the promise, though, the Cubs had hoped for with that big contract he got. 8 years, $136 million. He's gone, and the Cubs manufacture a first-inning run. doing some big swinging in perpetuity out there on the left field plaza. And good crowd gathering around him and in the ballpark. Here's the Mazda starting lineup. If it's not worth driving, it's not worth building. That's what we believe at Mazda. Ryan Zimmerman bumped up to his traditional number 3 spot tonight, swinging the bat well. He had 3 hits yesterday. You might notice no Bryce Harper and no Jason Worth. We'll have updates on those situations shortly for you. As the Nats hitting .233 will face Jeff Samardzija, who they saw at Wrigley Field last year and here. And he's 1-1, 2 career starts against the Nats, 9 appearances overall, because he used to be a bullpen guy after his days playing football at Notre Dame. And he can bring it.
Last time out on the 4th against the Reds, he allowed 2 runs, 1 earned on 4 hits over 6 innings, struck out 5, walked 3 through 111 pitches, 65 for strikes. So 2-seam fastball, 90 to 96, slider, cutter, split change to go with it.
Foul tip on a good fastball down low to DENARD Span. DENARD steps in hitting .287 on base percentage, over 60 points higher. Samardzija last pitched in this ballpark against Ross Detwiler on September 3rd. That was quite a duel. Ross gave up no runs, 4 hits in 7 innings. Samardzija 1 run, 7 hits in 7 innings. And the Nats won that game 2-1. So these two guys really matched up beautifully on Labor Day. That one is up and in. Span jumping back. He has struck out 19 times this year, walked 12 times. He has a career RBI, 1 for 3 against Jeff Samardzija, who goes 6'5", 225. 28 years of age, but he's really just now learning the starter routine.
Well, he likes that 2-seam fastball in on lefties. He'll bring it back for what he wants, a called third strike, that front hip sinker. He'll go away early in the count and try to backdoor that 2-seam fastball to right-handers. And a tight little slider to go with it. There's not a lot of break to it. Very subtle with late break at the end.
One and 2. High strike gets him looking. Probably some swing back action on that high on the inside corner.
That's it, the defense for the Cubs tonight. Soriano, Sweeney, Hairston in the outfield. Hairston 3 for 30 against lefties this year. Those 3 hits, all home runs. Castro, Ransom on the left side. Barney, Rizzo on the right side. And Wellington, Castillo doing the catching.
Cubs have made the most errors in Major League Baseball, 29. Their pitchers have made 6 errors. They're going to have to hurry to get Bernardina, and he is out on a good play by Darwin Barney using the leather.
Well, Jeff Samardzija's nickname is the Shark. Roger Bernardina's nickname is the Shark. So that was shark on shark right there. And round 1 barely goes to Jeff Samardzija, and that was close at first. Let's check out this replay. Looks like they got him. Good call.
Doug Eddings right on spot there. 2 outs, bases empty.
Barely, but they did.
That'll bring in Ryan Zimmerman. And this has not been a good matchup for Ryan. 0 for 11 career against Samardzija.
If I remember right, in that 0 for 11, there was a couple absolute bombs hit into the win at Wrigley Field early in the season last year.
Yeah, remember that?
So, yeah, 0 for 11, but there's been some hard hit balls.
Yeah, we opened the season there last year. They said it was 50 degrees. None of us believe it. The wind was howling in from Lake Michigan, which is outside the right field part of Wrigley, maybe a mile to a mile and a half away, and it was a brutal weekend. 0-2 pitch. Wow. Angel Hernandez calling a strike. That was a delayed call. He's already been booed once tonight. Now it's twice. by AFCIA, the Association for Global Security Professionals. And Julie, big news tonight as far as who's not in the lineup.
That's right, Bob. Noticeably absent from the lineup, Jason Worth and Bryce Harper. As far as Jason Worth is concerned, Davey Johnson told us today before the game, he said, unfortunately, it's not looking good. He said that he was stretching and his leg cramped up on him. Once again, he had to go back up on the table. His MRI a few days ago did come back negative, but that the hamstring is still nagging. Add to that, he's come down with an awful stomach virus, which has led to dehydration, which certainly is not helping that muscle tightness. Davey says that he could be headed for the DL. As far as Bryce Harper is concerned, he suffered from an ingrown toenail. Apparently they clipped it, but that they had to go back in again and do some minor surgery on it. Then it got infected, so now he's on medication for that, and he's day to day.
Yeah, Davey was hopeful that Bryce will be back in tomorrow. Scott Hairston to short. Great pick by Adam LaRoche on a strong one-hop throw from Ian Desmond. Well played on both ends.
And that ingrown toenail once they are not fun. Usually a day, though, they heal up. But enough about stomach viruses and clipping toenails. Let's watch Ian Desmond with a great play at shortstop.
From sick and clip to pick. Adam LaRoche picking that beautifully.
Well, Jason Moore's got a mild strain of the hamstring. Mike Rizzo said before the game it was kind of a grade 1 deal where he'll be back when he's supposed to be. All these retroactive days on the DL, he'll be back the 18th. Better be safe than sorry right now early in the season with him.
Catcher Wellington Castro. Or rather Castillo, pardon me. Shortstop is Castro. And Wellington Castillo last year hit .265 for the Cubs as a rookie. 52 ball games. He's off to a good start here at .305. 1-for-2 career against Ross Detwiler. And a bouncer left side cut off by Ryan Zimmerman. Ryan kind of laid back on that ball. Then he had a lot of momentum going into the glove play and the throw. 2 outs. Second inning presented by Luna. Call for the Luna double. Get your second room of flooring free at 877-241-LUNA. Big crowd. They're still coming down Half Street, still coming in. One of those Miller Lite party nights at the ballpark. A lot of folks in the Red Loft, Red Porch area. Ryan Sweeney, the hitter. This guy's been around for a while in the American League. Another player the Cubs just picked up. Sweeney signed as a minor league free agent April 3rd. He had signed with the Red Sox. He started the season for the Cubs at AAA Iowa. He hit .337 in 23 games, and they said, he's ready. Call him up. 1-1 pitch. Right side, long way to go for Espinosa. Got his body behind it. And the Nats flashing some defense, but Doug Eddings says the throw pulled Adam LaRoche off the bag.
No argument from LaRoche. Good play by Espinosa, and it took him a second to get up, and I think he threw that a little bit rushed because right here there's a little stutter step. What a great play by Espinosa. And was his foot on the bag? See right here, that'll show it. Off here, does it come back down before Sweeney hits the bag?
Runners out. Now this crew's having a tough week.
It's hard to tell on that angle right there if his toe was on the front side of the bag before LaRoche's heel came back down.
Here's Darwin Barney, the number 8 hitter. Off to a slow start, 147.
Let's check it out one more time. I can't tell, it's off my screen. I couldn't see the bag.
Darwin Barney is now 0 for his last 22. Danny Espinosa takes care of that. So the Cubs have 2 hits and a run in the first inning. Adam LaRoche straight ahead swinging a hot bat. 3, 4, 5, and 6 coming up. Time to check our Freight Railworks do-ups. Adam LaRoche. And these are their batting averages against the fastball. You know that number is going to come up. Adam is hot right now. Desmond, a fastball hitter. Denny Espinosa likes the heater as well. Adam LaRoche is on a 6-game hitting streak, 9 for 17. Plus all the walks we talked about over that time. Since he warmed things up in Pittsburgh last week, 5 walks. So he's hitting .529 during this hitting streak. And he goes up hacking. This one headed for the seats on the left side. Adam LaRoche against Jeff Samardzija. It's been an interesting matchup. His overall numbers for the season, fighting to get over that 200 mark and then take it from there. Against Samardzija, he's 2 for 8. Both hits home runs, 3 RBIs. Cubs starting pitching has been pretty good. Their bullpen has had a nightmare. And they don't hit on the road, although they do have a run that they manufactured back in the first inning tonight.
And Jeff Samardzija last time out against the Reds tried to field a ground ball comebacker. Got him in the fingernail. It's affected him a little bit. He's had blister problems earlier in the season. Look at that right index finger. Little fingernail job going on right there. We'll keep an eye on that throughout the course of the game.
Yeah, he throws a lot more pitches every time out now than he used to as a reliever.
I wish I could see that get into a glove when I was standing in the batter's box. See how he's gripping that thing.
Santangelo would have known what was coming.
Superman vision still wouldn't help, by the way.
Yeah, he'd still be playing. Well,
no.
Maybe.
Go with the split grip and then you change it. Easier to go from split to fastball than fastball to split. That's why you start with that grip.
1 ball, 2 strikes. And LaRoche goes down to get that off-speed pitch to stay alive. Ian Desmond next, so the lineup is affected as LaRoche bumps up to 4. Desmond up to 5. And Ian's hit a lot better 5th and 6th than he has when Davies batted him leadoff or second. Way upstairs, 2-2.
The danger as a left-handed hitter thinking about that front hip comeback sinker with 2 strikes as it opens up that split for Samardzija. But you also have to be very aware of 95-96 on the inner half. That's when it gets rough facing this guy.
This is in the air to left. It's pretty well hit. Soriano, though, pulls up at the edge of the track. 4 straight for Samardzija to start the game. Find out why the government and employees choose STG Inc. So the Cubs here losing 7 of the last 8, 5 of them close. Runs nearly doubled up. ERA favor the home team. Batting average, you name it. On base percentage plus slugging. The Nats won the season series overall from the Cubs 6-1 last year. Took 2 out of 3 in that first weekend at Chicago. All time as the Nats. 27 wins and 25 for the Cubs. Chopper by the mound. Desmond. That's a tough play for the shortstop. Ian beats it out. STARLIN Castro did everything right, but Ian Desmond gets an infield hit.
What that graphic didn't tell you is there was a little bench clearing deal last year at Nats Park. We'll show you that in a little bit. And Jeff Samardzija trying with that bare hand again, thought better of it because of what happened last time out against the Reds. Good play by Castro, but not enough to get the speedy Ian Desmond smelling the knock all the way, and there goes a no-hitter. You see Samardzija reach up for that ball and pull his hand back?
Yeah, a lot of pitchers do that, and then if the ball's hit slowly enough like that one, they have time to think better of it.
Well, he's got the fingernail. I mean, he can't. If he fields it with his bare hand, it breaks open, and then he's right where he was last start.
Espinosa hitting a .192. He's 2 for 7 against Samardzija with an RBI.
I watched Danny's BP today and just really smoothing out his swing from the left side, almost like an 80% approach to where At times, Davey Johnson will talk about how he overswings, swings too hard, gets out of the strike zone, but he's just kind of been, you know, for you golfers out there, just smoothing it right down the middle of the fairway, not trying to drive it 300 yards, just happy with 250 in the short hairs. Better approach.
Samardzija career record 22-26. Career earned run average just under 4. This is his 41st start. So he made 123 relief appearances before they ever made him a starter. On a pitch away, a little tapper. Samardzija boots it. Their pitchers have now made 7 errors this year. Most of them have been on pickoff throws or bunt plays. Samardzija booting that one, and the Nats have 2 on, 1 out.
Well, he's all right initially, and then once he missed it, he knows that Espinosa is going to hustle down the line, and right here is where panic sets in, and everybody's safe. So he tried to use the backhand, missed right here, and then once you go with the bare hand, and you're 0 for 2, you see him almost trip on the baseball right there. That might have thrown him off a little bit too, and right there, the whole gig's off. With the Exmo, that could have been a triple.
Here's Tyler Moore. You know, first basemen don't hold guys at first with first and second 1 out, but look how far off the line Anthony Rizzo is. Playing Tyler to pull on the left side. And that one will be popped up over by the dugout. Handled by Cody Ransom. 2 outs. Well, the Nats are having a great season so far at the gate. Washington is averaging 31,813. That is 6th highest out of 15 teams in the National League. Kurt Suzuki next.
Well, that's one of those deals where a wild pitch would have been the worst thing in the world for the Chicago Cubs. And if you're wondering why, well, Ross Detwiler's on deck. If you go second and third in a wild pitch, you walk Kurt Suzuki to get that Detwiler. I don't know how interested Jeff Samardzija is in Kurt Suzuki at this point, but that would have made the decision a lot more easy for the Cubs.
Small sample size. Suzuki 0 for 2 career against him.
He's not afraid of the fastball. Why would you be? 96 miles an hour, good sink. That's how you get the nickname clutch, folks. 375 with runners in scoring position.
Got a fastball. Hits it well to right center. This ball is up against the scoreboard. Desmond will score. Espinosa coming home. They pitch to Kurt Suzuki, and he puts the Nats on top.
Clutch. Telling you what, that pick by Wellington Castillo, I mean, you have to do it. That's what you're taught as a catcher, right? It's instinct. You can't just wave at it, let it go to the backstop, let 2 runners advance. But had he not caught that Jeff Samardzija pitch, first base is open. You walk Kurt Suzuki, and you pitch to Ross Detwiler, who of all the Nationals pitchers, probably the one that's the least effective with the bat. Cost the Cubs 2 runs.
Detwiler takes a fastball that misses. Two unearned runs. Suzuki's RBI total up to 9. And Detwiler will get around late and chop that ball to Anthony Rizzo. So the Nats get a big break. Cubs Well, I'm sure they have second thoughts about this 2-1 game. And former net Edwin Jackson. Gio goes on Sunday. Some of these single game tickets are just $10. Nationals.com/tickets. Last year, the Nats were in the process of beating the Cubs 9-2 on Thursday, September 6th. And some interesting things happened. Bo Porter getting after Jamie Quirk in the Cubs dugout. The benches would empty, FP. That was a situation where Worth was batting. And then in the next inning, Bryce Harper had to skip away from a pitch, and here they come again.
Yeah, and a hot summer night, tempers were flaring here at Nats Park. And how about the newest Chicago Cub? Edwin Jackson caught up with him today, was right in the middle of all this stuff. Saying hi to all of his new teammates a couple of months early. I'll show you EJ here in a second, but tempers flared, guys going at it. Not a whole lot going on, just some pushing, grabbing. The Beast wants a piece of somebody, and there's Edwin Jackson saying, I'm going to be with you guys next year. I know it, and I'm going to sign a big contract with you.
Yeah, clean up your act. I'm going to be your teammate. That was Steve Clevenger, by the way, that catcher who took a shot at Ian Desmond.
Well, it's funny, Bo Porter starting that whole thing, and how about what happened last night in Houston with Bo Porter going out to make a pitching change. Mike Scioscia for the Angels counter with a pinch hitter, and then Bo, without the pitcher even throwing a pitch, decided, well, I'm going to change again. And that can't happen. You have to throw to one hitter before you can change pitchers. And that whole crew today by Major League Baseball, Fielding Colbert was fined, and the rest of the crew, Fielding Colbert was suspended, and the rest of the crew was fined.
Well, Jeff Samardzija swinging the bat just fine right there. I mean, that ball was jacked to left field. First career double for an 092 hitter.
And Jeff Samardzija, a good athlete. Y'all know about him being a wide receiver at Notre Dame, choosing baseball over football. And I'd say the baseball things worked out well. But when you're that blessed to play two sports, obviously you can swing the bat too.
179 receptions, almost 2,600 yards and 27 touchdowns at Notre Dame. A great athlete. Top of the order here, Starlin Castro. And FP, when that discipline came down from the commissioner's office, that's not the first time this year umpires have been disciplined.
And Fielding Colbert suspended 2 games. And if you're wondering why Angel Hernandez wasn't suspended for missing that home run call in Cleveland the other night when the Oakland Athletics went deep, they said that was a judgment call. This was baseball rule 3.05 last night in Houston. If the pitcher is replaced, the substitute pitcher shall pitch to the batter, then at bat, or any substitute batter until such batter is put out or reaches first base, or until the offensive team is put out. So you have to face one hitter. So one was a rule misinterpretation, and Bo Porter issued a public apology today for the way he handled that thing. And with Angel Hernandez, that was a judgment call. And
yeah,
Lord knows I've made a lot of bad judgment in my life, so I can't blame him.
The thing about that so-called home run in Cleveland the other night, though, You could look at that replay for 3 seconds and know it was a home run. They looked at it for 3 minutes and said it wasn't. Starlin Castro is going to tie this game with his second double of the night. The Cubs have 4 hits, 3 of them for extra bases, 1 from the pitcher and the other 2 from the leadoff man. Castro's 16th RBI.
The Chicago Dubs right now. 3 doubles in the game. Starlin Castro with 2 of them. And this one off the right center field wall scores Jeff Samardzija. Tie this game up. Some healthy swings early in this game from Cubs hitters.
Cody Ransom bounced back to Detwiler first time. Situation just like this. Runner at second, nobody out. He moved Castro over. Anthony Rizzo drove him in with another ground ball.
And kind of going back to last year, too, with the Cubs' tempers flaring on the bench. Bo Porter and everybody apologizing to each other this year in spring training or early in the season. But at the major league level, there's a lot of pride in that Cubs dugout, and they're trying to do things the right way, move in the right direction. When you're getting it handed to you for 4 days, it is tough. And tempers are short, and you start to look for things. And as a coach, when you're sitting there and you're getting beat bad, there's not a whole lot of coaching to do. So what you do in turn is you start to look for things and you get frustrated. And honestly, I can't blame those guys because there's a lot of pride. And if you made it to this level, it's for a reason. And stuff happens. That's part of the game.
And that is Jamie Quirk with Dale Swain. Pat Listash not on the staff here anymore, former Nats coach. Ross Detwiler has thrown 1 pitch, not a fastball so far. No balls, 2 strikes. That was a breaker, and it was fouled away by Cody Ransom. Kurt Suzuki with a stop. Not sure how he saw that ball. Hitting the ground right at the feet of Cody Ransom.
So from the Cubs PR and RPR, that snapped an 0 for 38 for Jeff Samardzija right there. That double to start this inning off. Nice block by Kurt Suzuki.
Well, you know, in football, when you're frustrated, you go out and hit somebody. That's what he just did. And hit it hard. Two now to Ransom.
Look at the percentage of fastball for Detwiler, 91%. I feel like as a pitcher that throws that high a percentage of fastball, it's one thing if you're cutting through lineups doing it. It's another thing to where, you know, guys are on your heat. In the last couple of games, they've been on Ross Detwiler's fastball. And
well, isn't hitting about timing?
Well, if you can move your fastball around and control it like he has with so much movement, it's like 4 pitches. But if you're not commanding the strike zone with it and guys are on it, you're getting too much of the plate, there has to be a plan B or secondary pitches. You know, we were marveling at Ross early in the season. I was sitting up here saying, was a hitter. We just dream about guys that are going to challenge you like this. And
well, that time he had Cody Ransom all locked up. Something deceptive happened on that pitch, and Ross has his first strikeout of the night. More importantly, the runner stays at second base. Mercedes-Benz on the pitch track.
See, when he gets on top of that sinker like that, it almost has split action at the end. You see the cut on the fastball, and he doesn't throw a cutter on purpose. When he goes that 4-seamer in, sometimes he gets his fingers outside the baseball and has cut action to it.
Mercedes-Benz located on the web at mbusa.com. Fastball rides inside to Anthony Rizzo, who pulled a ground ball to Danny Espinosa for an RBI first inning. So Rizzo's now driven in 26. He's only 23. Drafted by the Red Sox in the 6th round in 07. He went to San Diego as part of that Adrian Gonzalez deal, and the Padres let him go. So here's Castro coming in. Bernardina's throw. That is close and out at the plate on an unbelievable reach by Kurt Suzuki. Cubs don't argue. Castro not saying a word as he walks away. And Roger Bernardina gets a bullet of an outfield assist.
Well, one of the most athletic catchers in baseball, and you see Castro jumping for third base, and that might have been the difference. Had to speed it up after that again, and can't tell you how much courage that takes, folks, for Kurt Suzuki just to blindly dive into a base runner. You don't know if he's coming to get you. You know if he's going to take your head off. You don't know what's going to happen. And picking that ball and just diving to the runner like he did right there takes a lot of athleticism, but maybe even more courage. Good throw by the Shark in right to get Castro. Great play.
That keeps it a tie game, and here's Soriano. The Cubs have 2 doubles and a single in the inning, but there's 2 outs with a man at first. Soriano fouled out to LaRoche first time up.
Score that Shark to clutch. Some action here early against the Cubs. I love it.
Alfonso Soriano last year hit the second most homers as a Cub, 32. He'd hit 33 his first year there in 07. But last year was the first time he made it to 100 RBIs at 108. Fastball is upstairs.
I mean, I can't tell you how much courage that takes. I mean, obviously a reactionary play for Kurt Suzuki, but you one-hop that ball and blindly dive back into the plate extended. You could get a face full of cleat. I mean, you don't know what's going to happen right there. And you get trucked. I mean, there's a lot of different scenarios that could have happened to Kurt Suzuki. It's a great play by both of these guys.
Cubs are getting some hits tonight, but they're not scoring that much as Roger Bernardina gets a one-hopper to Suzuki. The dive, the tag, the out, and the game stays tied. Bottom of the third, 2-2. When the Nats win and score 7, you get 50% off regular menu price online orders at papajohns.com. Enter promo code NATS50, valid at participating D.C., Maryland, and Northern Virginia Papa John's locations. Better ingredients, better pizza. Papa John's, official pizza of your Washington Nationals. Hacking, first pitch, bottom of the third, DENARD span. Struck out looking first time up. And DENARD Span will pop this one up over by the on-deck circle. Caught there by Wellington Castillo.
Shark on shark round 2. Here we go.
It was bang bang at first. On a good play, a really good play by Darwin Barney, who had no chance to throw out Bernardina, so he scooped it with his glove. Beat him by a fin. No problem on that take. Outside with the heater, 2-0.
So if you missed it earlier, Bryce Harper out of the lineup tonight with an ingrown toenail that he had clipped. A little infection in there. Should be back in the lineup tomorrow.
Yeah, you want to have your lefties ready for Edwin Jackson tomorrow. Bernardino will pop it up. Samardzija overpowering some hitters right now. And that one comes back to Cody Ransom. He just camped out on the rail and waited for it to spin back to him. Find out why the government and employees choose STG Inc. So guys who strike out the highest percentage of batters going back to last year. And of course the Nats missed Max Scherzer in the Detroit series. Yu Darvish, Steven goes tomorrow. Jeff Samardzija, Clayton Kershaw of the Dodgers.
Yeah, all stuff, guys.
Ryan Zimmerman struck out looking on a pitch that looked up and away first time. He debated that strike 3 with Angel Hernandez and then walked away. Now it's 0-2 again.
It's a rough go if you're a right-handed hitter against Jeff Samardzija coming in tonight, just hitting 174 against him, 16 for 92. Lefty's a little bit better at 257.
He's going to snap off a breaking ball at 85. Ryan gone. So Samardzija is taking care of the top of the order so far. Middle innings upon us. 2-2 game. Park. It's our troop recognition. Tonight, it's our Navy Federal Credit Union troop recognition. 4 million members, 4 million stories. Navy Federal Credit Union. Welcome home indeed. 45 pitches, 30 strikes for Ross Detwiler. Let's go inside the numbers with STG Inc. Hairston, Castillo, and Sweeney coming up. Top 5 starting pitchers who use the fastball, and nobody throws it more than Ross Detwiler, not even Bartolo Colon.
Well, Dan Herron, 78.5%. That's the 4-seamer and the cutter and a 2-seamer. So he's got 3 different kinds of fastballs. Ross Detwiler, 2-seam, 4-seam. We always talk about when Ross Detwiler pitches, you won't hear anybody coming back to the other dugout saying challenge somebody.
Took a little bit off that one. 88 missing away to Scott Hairston, who hit the ball hard to Ian Desmond first time up. Ian made an athletic play, and then his in-between hop throw, which was really hot coming in, picked beautifully by Adam LaRoche. Nats don't see much of Scott Hairston anymore, but he did hit .263 with 20 homers for the Mets last year. Drove in 57. Had a couple of those home runs against Washington pitching, and he hacks that one by Ryan Zimmerman, and the Cubs are going to have another extra base hit. That'll be their 4th double of the evening, and the 3rd time they've had one leading off.
Well, that's the worst part about the doubles for the Nationals. You see the pitch from Detwiler up in the zone again, and that's where hitters like that ball up. So it's been the Chicago Dubs tonight, 4th double of the night.
Catcher Wellington Castillo next. He hit the ball to Ryan Zimmerman on a chopper first time. First pitch is target away. A little bit low. We'll see if they wanted to get him leaning out there and then try to bust him inside to keep him from advancing the runner with a right side grounder. And Suzuki's going to stay out there. This ball's popped up into the twilight. It's an interesting time of the evening for fielders on pop-ups. Rogers spotted that ball and made the catch. In fact, so interesting, it's 8 o'clock straight up here at Nationals Park. Capacity 41,418. The Nats are averaging almost 32,000 a game. Bob, FP, Julie all here for the first of a weekend series.
Great crowd tonight. Great buzz at the ballpark.
Short homestand, 5 games, and then the Nats leave for 10. By the way, we saw that graphic a little while ago with Clayton Kershaw. The Nats get Kershaw Tuesday night at Dodger Stadium.
This is something where Greinke's close too.
I hope he's close to pitching next weekend. Well, the Nats go to San Diego. 1-0 to Ryan Sweeney. Bounced a base hit to the right side first time. And Danny Espinosa's throw was a little bit high for LaRoche. That's up and in, 2-0. Sweeney's been around for a while. Parts of 5 years with the White Sox, Oakland, and Boston. .280 career hitter. Adds right in there with a good fastball. Xavier High School, Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Once voted Louisville Slugger National Player of the Year. And a chopper right side. Espinosa can charge and wait and throw for the second out. Scott Hairston to third base with 2 down. Natitude Flex Packs on sale now. Pick 4 games, get a 5th one free. Go to nationals.com/flex. Darwin Barney bounced out to Espinosa first time.
This is where the Jeff Samardzija double first time up may come into play in the favor of Darwin Barney. He hit a double first time up. I always say, hey, it's a pitcher. He's not paid to drive in runs. But when you have a guy that's shown he can swing the bat on deck, maybe you go after the 8th hitter right here. Or you start him up with a curveball.
That one tails outside, 2-0. Darwin Barney hit .276, .254 for the Cubs as their everyday second baseman last 2 years. Trying to battle out of an 0 for 22 right now.
I've been where Darwin Barney's been before, to where you start the season in such a scuffle. You change your approach 4, 5, 6, 7 times because you're trying to find it, and you get so far away from your original stance that you forget where you were. And he's been trying everything this year for the Cubs. Changed his stance, changed his approach. Dale Swain finally took him out early and said, hey, I just want you to pull the baseball and forget about everything. Clear your mind. See ball, hit ball, let it fly. And it's always with the cerebral guys like Darwin Barney that get just so deep in their head when they struggle. It's not for lack of effort or lack of work. It's a tough thing to get out of when you start the season behind the 8 ball.
Yeah, tough to hit 8th in this league. 3-2 pitch, he gets jammed. And that's over by the dugout. LaRoche, it might come back to him. He's got room. Little one-handed basket catch with that mitt. Leadoff double does not hurt. Detwiler pitches through it. 4-5-6 coming up. Sella Express, 16 daily departures now between DC and New York. Book now at Amtrak.com. Starlin Castro, a pair of doubles. The Nats had an answer, a pretty good one in the 2nd inning.
Ian Desmond with an infield single with 1 out. Then Danny Espinosa, tapper back to the mound. Jeff Samardzija misses it, almost steps on it, misses it again. So 1st and 2nd for Kurt Suzuki, pitcher on deck. Jeff Samardzija with that football mentality, challenging Suzuki, and Suzuki clutched up once again with a double off the wall to score 2.
Adam LaRoche led off the 2nd, fly to left, fly pretty deep to left, put Soriano on the track out there. And then that's when the fun started, with Desmond coming up after that. So the Nats have been out hit 6-2 by the Cubs. Russ Detwiler has given up 23 hits in his last 2 starts plus 4 innings tonight. But, as we said earlier, giving up a lot of hits, but really not giving up that many runs. That's why the ERA hangs in there at 2.50 coming in. 1-1 to Adam LaRoche. That ball is stung out to center. I mean, not just base hits, but really driving the ball with authority for Adam LaRoche. Most of them singles right now, but the extra base hits will come.
Well, as long as you're going the other way like he's been doing so well here the last couple of weeks. Things just slowing down. Watch the foot get down early. I think that was getting down late for LaRoche. He was behind the baseball, underneath it. And he's a timing guy, and right now the timing's exactly where it was all of last year. You see the hit streak, 10 for 19. And with my math, that's above 500.
Well, you did, you know, put you and Darwin Barney in that cerebral category together last inning.
Yeah.
Switch to 100% fiber optic Verizon Fios. Supercharge your internet speeds. They bring us that amazing X mode.
I'm a Darwin Barney fan, and it's only a matter of time before he figures it out. I love the way he plays the game.
0-1 to Desmond. Hitting room right side. He will pull it. There it goes. See you later. They're not going to need to look at this one. Clearly out of the ballpark. And the Nats lead 4-2.
Single first time up. Who's taking his helmet off? Somebody's got to get his helmet. There's the shower, the bubblegum shower. I'll just wear it till he comes up again. But first time up at infield single. Second time up. A home run for Ian Desmond. 5th of the year. 14th RBI. Got a hanging slider from Jeff Samardzija right out over the heart of the plate. He's looking fastball, caught the slider. Look at that, just spinning, little cement mixer there, backed up on Samardzija. He wanted it down and away. It stayed on the inner half, and Ian Desmond barely cleared the fence, and they all count. Good swing, line drive, home run for Desmond.
How about Desmond now? 7 for 12 career against Jeff Samardzija.
Getting a little shot in Angel Hernandez right there with the call. You don't have to review that one. That was nice. Very clever of you.
I don't know where these things come from. They just flash through the mind, and pretty soon they're on the air.
You don't have to review that one.
I thought I could sneak that one through.
What's weird about that is I went in the umpire's room the other day, and they have the replay machine and the television monitor in their room. And it's locked up, but you have to have a key to open it. It's about a 19-inch screen. And they have the home feed, the visitors feed, and I think a feed that's digitally enhanced from New York. So you have 3 different feeds to make that decision.
The monitors are that small, though?
Well, 19 inches, I mean, that's decent size, right? But you talk about some of the monitors we use on the road to where we have to make decisions on whether guys are safe or out or whether it's a home run. That was my initial thought in that game in Cleveland with Angel Hernandez, is they had one of those tiny monitors. You couldn't see clearly what had happened, but I also think there's a way to call New York to see what they think. It's just odd they missed that.
Tyler Moore goes the other way and gets himself a base hit. He's been in full swing mode lately, and I'll tell you one thing, Rick Eckstein and Davey Johnson love what they just saw from him. 3rd hit of the inning.
Yeah, going the other way. Talked to Rick Eckstein today, asked him if there was dark circles under his eyes. Was he getting any sleep with the new addition to the family? He said, yeah, it's been going good.
And by the way, he told me today, I heard you guys say the other night, we hope the baby looks like mom. He said, that's a good call.
Yeah. He came up to me first things I heard what you said last night. I'm like, hey, it's true. No offense.
Yeah, we'll always insult the dad before the mom. Here's Suzuki. Great swing last time. He banged one 380 feet off the scoreboard in right center. Drove in 2 runs back in the second. Now the Nats have weathered a couple of Cubs extra base hits and lead by 2.
I mean, it's so cliche, but when the weather heats up, the bats heat up. It's true. I mean, so much easier to hit in this kind of weather. Warm out, balls carrying, muscles are loose, feel good about yourself.
And Suzuki will go to right. Scott Hairston cruising to it for the second out. Well, the base hit by Moore following the homer gives the Nats a chance to turn the lineup over here in the 4th inning. PNC Bank for the achiever in you. We'll check in on Paul Demney and Ian Kroll, righty-lefty, and they combined for a no-hitter against Binghamton last night. So the first time since '03, the Senators have no-hit the opposition.
You throw a no-hitter, especially a combined one, you should both be in the big leagues the next day. Call them up. They're more than ready.
I would hate to be an accountant for your Major League Baseball team. I'd be paying 80 guys Major League salaries and per diem.
Call them up.
Detwiler bounced out to Anthony Rizzo at first. Final out of the second inning. Outside, 1 ball, 2 strikes. So that's 5 homers for Desmond this year. RBI total up to 14. He was just coming off a hitting streak that ended a few days ago. That'll end the 4th inning. But a base hit by Adam LaRoche setting up a low liner to left by Ian Desmond. It got out in a hurry. And the Nats, on their 32nd home run of the year, have taken a 4-2 lead into the 5th. Jeff Samardzija to lead off top of the 5th inning for the Cubs, and that's on top 4-2 here on May 10th. Volkswagen brings you this moment in Nationals history. And on May 10th of 2010, Luis Atalano went to 3-0. He pitched 5 1/3 scoreless 5-hit innings against the Mets in New York to beat New York 3-2. And at that point, the Nats were 18-14 to start the 2010 season, just 2 games back of the Phillies. Steven Strasburg would show up a little later that summer. By the way, Volkswagen Springtoberfest going on right now. Visit VWDealer.com. Jeff Samardzija cranks another one. DENARD span, and he will make the catch on a full run, tumbling onto the track.
Unbelievable. Are you kidding me? If it's in the ballpark, he catches it. Cheating up for the pitcher, even though Samardzija went double first time up. A guy over his last 38. Broke that streak with a double and trying for maybe even more right here. DENARD Span, a guy who told me he doesn't dive for the baseball ever. I just think his momentum took him that way as the fence was approaching. And how about that? That takes Spanning to a whole different level. How much ground does that guy cover, and how much fun is he to watch?
Yeah, good luck hitting a gapper with Span and Bernardino out there.
Unbelievable.
Top of the order, Starlin Castro 2 for 2 with doubles. Yeah, he plugged the gap last time, but his hit the scoreboard on a fly.
It just doesn't get any better than that anywhere. especially where we're looking way up here. That ball was ticketed for the gap over his head, and he just outran it. Threw his glove up at the last second. If you ever try to catch a ball running that hard, your head's bobbling all over the place, the ball's moving on you, and you just kind of pick a spot to where you think it's going to be. Former wide receiver in high school. Let's watch DENARD Span run a post route right here for a touchdown. Unbelievable. Gosh, that's good.
High in the air, right center. Bernardina has the ball coming back to him off the bat of the right-handed batter. Russ Detwiler could use a 1-2-3 inning. Hasn't had one tonight. He'll try to get Cody Ransom to accomplish that here in the 5th. And by the way, Roger Bernardina thought so much of that play. He ran all the way out there from where he was in the gap to congratulate DENARD Span. When the Sharks impressed, that tells you something, because that guy's made some of the best plays in the history of this ballpark.
But when Roger Bernardina makes a good play, it's more about the athleticism and him maybe not taking more of a direct route to the baseball and making that spectacular lunge and being fast enough to maybe outrun a mistake at times. But with DENARD Span, he's on top of it. First step quickness, beeline straight to the baseball. There's no false step, there's no reading and then going for the ball. It's just ball hits bat, he's off to the races. Bang, bang.
That's a fair ball. Detwiler threw first pitch curveball to Cody Ransom, and then a fastball that Ransom turned on. It's another double for the Cubs. So they have 5 of them tonight, and Span just took away a double, maybe more. So a runner at second, 2 outs for Anthony Rizzo. Rizzo, RBI ground ball, pulled a base hit to right field last time.
I see the loneliest guy in the ballpark tonight for the Cubs right there, Dave McKay, first base coach. 5 doubles for the Cubs, everybody running right by him. He's had no friends tonight. A couple of singles, one by Sweeney, one by Rizzo, and that's been it.
Longtime coach with Tony La Russa in Oakland and St. Louis.
I think he's okay with that.
Next big league catcher. 2 balls, no strikes.
That's a cut fastball from Detwiler at 93. Had slider action to it. And that's just getting your fingers on the first base side of the baseball at release. It's not so much a yank. He doesn't try to throw a cutter. It just happens on his 4-seam fastball to where fingers are on the side of the baseball instead of right behind it.
Yeah, not the kind of 2-0 hack you usually see from a power guy. He'll pull that one. Espinosa's in right field to make that play. The Nationals have played some outstanding defense behind Ross Detwiler tonight. There's the best of the bunch. And DENARD Span keeps the Cubs off the board.
defense for the Nationals. Check out the Shark right here. Good one-hop throw to the plate. Kurt Suzuki with a dive and a tag, as good as it gets right there. And let's watch some spanning together. DC flyer, Denard Span going in the gap, a little reach at the end. And the dive is the fence he's approaching, getting some love from the Shark, and why not? That's as good as it gets all the way around. Bernardina, great throw. Suzuki, great tag. Span, unbelievable running catch.
Top of the order, Denard Span has struck out and fouled out. High strike. Bottom of the fifth underway. They are pinching at the corners. They probably will against Bernardina in a moment. Jeff Samardzija, things are kind of happening quickly in his game tonight. 51 pitches, 39 strikes, first 4 innings. So he hasn't missed much. But the Nats have hit him pretty well. Russ Detwiler, meanwhile, 72 pitches, 46 strikes in his 5 innings. That's a fastball outside. The Nationals have one leadoff man aboard tonight. That was LaRoche last inning, followed by the Desmond home run. So when they've been able to get Jeff Samardzija to the stretch, they've made some things happen. He's had a couple of 1, 2, 3 innings against the top of the order. And Denard Span will foul that one straight back.
Well, if you get a chance, Adam Kilgore, one of the better articles I've ever seen about Bryce Harper. It's called A Swing of Beauty, and it has a lot of people throughout his life breaking down his swing. A lot of great quotes from Bryce Harper, even video on how he has that stiff front side and release it with his back foot off the ground at contact. I'll tell you what, if you have to go to the website, the Washington Post website, it's by Adam Kilgore, and it shows the pitches he swings at, the percentage of contact he makes on certain pitches. It talks about how he developed the swing he has, how much work he put into that swing, quotes from his dad, his teammates. One of the better pieces I've ever seen. Get a chance, check it out.
So that leadoff man aboard. First time Span, Bernardina, or Zimmerman gets on tonight. Denard is 5 out of 6 in stealing. And I know you need help from your pitchers. Wellington Castillo, the Cub catcher, 6 for 24, caught stealing. Cubs, by the way, are the second best running team in the league in terms of steals to Milwaukee. The Nats are right in the middle of the league with 16 steals in 23 attempts.
The only thing that Denard Span hasn't really clicked on or locked in yet this year is the stolen base, and I've talked to him about it, and it's just like hitting. They come in bunches, you get in a groove, you get a good jump, you get the confidence over there, and it's only a matter of time before he feels comfortable with his jumps. I feel like sometimes he gets out there so far that maybe his mindset is more toward first than towards second because you're uncomfortable with such a big lead. Sometimes it's better to have a short lead and be thinking aggressively toward the base you're trying to steal versus a big lead and thinking back toward first.
That ball's hard hit, and that's about the only way you can double up Roger Bernardina. Barney Castro Rizzo, 4-6-3. Nats Live free post-game concert series gets underway June 8th. Nats are playing the Twins that day. And after the game, a free post-game concert featuring Blues Traveler. Game tickets starting at $10. Go to nationals.com/Nats Live. Some restrictions apply. And that free post-game concert is only with a game ticket for June 8th. Ryan Zimmerman, 2 outs, bases empty. And he bats that way for the 3rd time tonight.
This Traveler has a song called Hook. They should get Gio Gonzalez out there to sing it with him. Steady diet of two-seam fastballs on the outer half to Zimmerman from Samardzija in this game, trying to run it back for a strike and catch that outside corner.
This is the first time he hasn't had him 0-2. And that's ball 3. Hey, 2-run lead. If he throws a fastball, even though there's a hot hitter coming up, maybe Ryan gets the green light here. Maybe it's his choice. He's 0 for 13 career against Jeff Samardzija. And he'll take it in there at 95. Nice at bat. Laid off. That one cutting away from him. Second walk in the inning for Jeff Samardzija here in the 5th. Now he has to deal with LaRoche, who took him center field for a base hit last time prior to the Desmond home run.
It's only a matter of time before he catches one of these fastballs out front to the pull side and does some damage. The swing's good. You don't really want to mess with it when you're getting your base hits and you're playing catch up like LaRoche is, but he'll catch one out front here soon.
Yeah, there are some pitching coaches who are going to be tired of watching base hits go to left center and up the middle and start trying to bust at him inside. So he has battled out of this slump of his in perfect fashion to set things up for quite a while to come here. Off speed, great take. Gets the count back even, 1-1. LaRoche, 3 for 10 career against this right-hander. And working on a 7-game hitting streak tonight now with that base hit last inning. He lines that one to right, and that ball is on the ground. Hairston couldn't catch it. Over to third goes Zimmerman, and Adam LaRoche now has a multi-hit game. And finally for him, some of those tweeners are falling in. A couple of weeks ago, he hit the ball harder than that, and it would just be caught by somebody.
Well, the reason I said it's only a matter of time before he starts to pull the baseball is once you get your hands as a hitter in the right slot inside the ball and you're going the other way, now you get him in the right slot very comfortably to the pull side. Good try right here by Hairston. Can't glove it. That's in business with a little 2-out lightning here in the 5th.
Big spot for Ian Desmond to bust this game open. He's 2 for 2 with a single and a 2-run homer. He goes up taking, and it's on the outside corner. Pretty unhittable 93 where that one was.
Yeah, cut fastball right there. Doesn't throw it very often. Perfectly placed.
Nats now have 6 hits. 4 in the last 2 innings. And Desmond goes right field line. That's another extra base hit for him. Zimmerman has scored. LaRoche to be held at third. And the Nationals lead 5-2 on Ian Desmond's 19th extra base hit and his 12th double of the season.
Well, that ties him with Anthony Rizzo for the league lead in extra base hits right there. Ian Desmond with a nice piece of hit and knew the game plan. Hey, pull side home run. What do you look for next time? Up something down the way. He's not going to challenge me in again. And that's how smart Ian Desmond is as a hitter. And how many times do you see 2-out walks come back to haunt you? Get that double play, take a deep breath, maybe a little bit too fine to Ryan Zimmerman. Next thing you know, base hit, double, run.
So Danny Espinosa trying to do some 2-out damage here. Espinosa, deep right center, heading for the scoreboard. It's off the wall. 2 runs will score. 7-2 Washington.
2-out lightning. I talked about his last at bat, how smooth his swing was today in batting practice, how at times he can overswing. Not anymore. Look how long that bat is in the strike zone, how smooth the swing is. Remember last year at times from the left side be a little bit herky-jerky, trying to do too much, overswinging. And he has fixed that, folks. Not a problem right there. Big hit from Danny Espinosa to make this 7-2.
RBIs number 11 and 12. Tyler Moore went the other way last time. He jacks one to center. And this ball is caught by Ryan Sweeney on a dead run about 380 feet away. How about the swings in that 5th inning?
A little fast break offense from your Nats. Well, Georgia Tom will, because Abe, Teddy, and Bill are having a horrible season. I mean, it's just a joke at this point.
Abe comes out to take out the 2 guys who haven't won a race. Then he goes down.
I mean, there's been talk about sending Abe, Teddy, and Bill to Syracuse because they haven't won a race all year this year. George has won 13, Tom 8.
You know, it's closer to home. I just sent them all the way back to High A in Potomac. Well, come on.
Who was their vice presidents? Call them up, because they're not getting the job done, and frankly, it's embarrassing.
It's like that old song, second verse, same as the first.
Yeah, this is a big league. You either produce or next, right?
Yeah, I don't care if you've got a presidential library or not.
I don't care how big your head is.
Social commentary along with the president's race every night here on Massive.
We caught this between innings. This is how happy Nats fans are that there's 7 runs on the board right now. You, my friend, are getting after it.
You know, he's been doing the sprinkler since RFK Stadium, that guy.
I want to party with that guy.
Better get a Natstown t-shirt, buddy, and a red ball cap. Soriano has fouled out and struck out swinging. And he pops this one high in the air, right center. Who wants it? Take your pick on center fielders. It'll be Bernardino. He'll check in, 1 out, 6th inning with Julie.
Hey, Bob, well, as you guys have mentioned throughout the broadcast tonight, Ross Detwiler is known for having a lot of success throwing those 2- and 4-seam fastballs. But since his last start in Pittsburgh, I talked to Steve McCatty at what adjustments he has to make. And he said that sometimes his fastball has great life to it, but sometimes that 4-seamer has a tendency to cut back over the plate, and that's when he gets into trouble. And I asked him if he was working on varying it up a bit, maybe throwing in some off speeds here and there. And McCatty said ultimately it's going to be his decision, and in his opinion, Ross has pitched well enough to earn the right to call what he wants to throw.
Well, there's scouting reports, and nice job, Julie. That's good stuff. There's scouting reports that pitchers have, and what they are is information, suggestions. You don't necessarily have to go to a hitter's weakness. You can go to your strengths, and Steve McCatty, is talking today before the game, allows every one of his pitchers to decide that for himself, meaning how you're feeling on a given day, whether you're going to pitch to what the book says with a certain hitter, or if you have your A stuff, just going to your game and doing your thing. And I think all successful pitchers, in my experiences, pitch to their strengths versus hitters' weaknesses.
No doubt about it, the express is his. He misses outside 3-1 to Scott Hairston, who has grounded out hard to short, and then he chopped a double down the third base line. 1 for 2. Hairston, 6 for 11 career against Detwiler. This one popped up straight back. We have an AT&T fact of the game for you. Home ERA 2.76. The Cubs average 2.69 runs per game on the road, so something's got to give. They just don't score. They're hitting 207 away from Wrigley Field. And you told me about their runners in scoring position. Figure way below that, huh?
Yeah, they struggle on the road this year so far. 140 with runners in scoring position coming into tonight on the road.
Bernardino got to that ball in a hurry, so Danny Espinosa could peel off. Always great when an outfielder gets a big-time jump and has the easy play as opposed to the tough play for the second baseman. So the Cubs have their bullpen working. Hector Rondon. Their closer right now is Kevin Gregg. Nats remember him from the Marlins years ago. Carlos Marmol has a couple of saves, but Gregg has 5, and Marmol with that slider that at times he has a hard time controlling.
Yeah, Gregg signed on the cut by the Cubs on April 14th. Has converted all 5 of his save opportunities since joining the team. Carlos Marmol was the original closer. Fujikawa was the setup guy early in the season. That didn't work out, so Dale Swain making an adjustment, naming Gregg his closer the other day.
Ryan Zimmerman cuts that ball off, squared himself up for a very strong throw. Nats are playing some good baseball tonight. I'm starting to get some good memories of what happened in this ballpark last year. By the way, this team is suddenly playing pretty solid against the Tigers. Defense has been tight, pitching pretty good. And tonight, kind of everything working together.
Yeah, 15 home runs in that 4-game series against the Cubs last year. If you like doubles tonight, 8 in this game already. 3 by the Nationals, 5 by the Chicago Cubs, a home run by Ian Desmond. So a lot of extra base hits here tonight. Bats are loud on a Friday night at Nats Park.
Yeah, and I like the defense. Span, Bernardina, Suzuki, infield solid. The Nats have really tightened up their interior defense.
And they have. And, you know, we always talk about the tempo of Jordan Zimmerman, but right now Ross Detwiler's got that tempo going. Not his A-plus stuff, but like we always say, you got to lead pound that strike zone, and nobody does it better than Ross Detwiler.
And, oh, by the way, the Nats are into the Cubs bullpen. Hector Rondon takes over. So Washington gets, arguably, the Cubs' best starter, Jeff Samardzija, out of the game after 5 innings. And what a good start to the weekend that is. Samardzija, 73 pitches, 50 strikes. He was tagged for a couple of unearned runs, but his error led to those 2 runs back in the second. And then the Desmond homer in the 4th, the big blow of the game.
Over the last 9 games, the Cubs bullpen has a 6.75 ERA. They've given up 25 hits, 17 walks. They've hit 5 batters in just 22 2/3 innings. So their bullpen has been scuffling, to say the least.
And they've got a lot of outs to get just to get through this game. And by the way, tomorrow's starter, Edwin Jackson, is 0-5 with a 6.39 earned run average. That's a breaking ball well outside.
Well, he'll have a little extra motivation tomorrow facing his old teammates, talking about hitting my 98. Good to see Edwin today and catch up with him. There he is. EJ, everybody in the first base dugout misses him tons.
Yeah, great personality in the clubhouse, always smiling.
And we miss him too.
And the man who took his place in this rotation, Dan Herron, now has a winning record of 4-3.
He did a nice job yesterday, minus that pitch to Tuiasa Sopo, the only mistake he really made all day.
Let's go inside the numbers with Dodge on Dan Herron. Performance, design, fuel efficiency. Schedule a test drive. Go to Dodge.com. Check out the powerful lineup. Last 3 starts against good ball clubs, we might add. Really good.
Yeah, getting there. He's got his comfort level to where it should be this time of year. A new guy and a new team. It takes you time to settle in, get to know your surroundings, your teammates. There's always a tendency to impress early your fan base, the guys in your own clubhouse. I think now Dan Herron fitting in nicely and feeling like one of the guys here in D.C. Makes all the difference in the world when you take that hill every 5 days.
3-2 from 25-year-old Hector Rondon. And a fastball drilled by Suzuki. Deep center. And it'll be caught right at the track by Ryan Sweeney. I'm telling you, the Nats are making some loud outs tonight. It's a fair ballpark, though. You hit it well, right spot, it'll go out. Verizon Fios on the Exmo squared it up nicely.
Yeah, just maybe underneath it a hair, get that ball hit high in the air. Another aggressive swing with the contact point out in front. Sometimes you do nothing wrong as a hitter, and it's an 0 for 1.
Ross Detwiler tonight, 0 for 2 with the bat, 83 pitches, 52 strikes. And by the way, he just got his first 1-2-3 inning of the night. It took him until the 6th. So it looks like he's going to go at least 7 for the first time since that game at Miami, April 17th. In an effort for his first base hit of the year, just slicing away.
He's trying to jump on that doubles train tonight. Everybody else is doing it. There's an attitude. You get a souvenir.
Well, Teddy can't win a race or come close, but he spreads a lot of goodwill around here.
He's spreading goodwill in Syracuse if he doesn't win a race soon.
Yeah. Taft, I don't know. Nats used to have a AAA in Columbus. We could send him back to his native Ohio.
Go to Potomac for a homestand. Eat free with all the kids.
They're not ready. Farm them out. Now, if anybody could do that all you can eat Wednesday, it's William Howard Taft.
Yeah. Oh, he can destroy some spreads for sure.
He was running like it. One ball and 2 strikes to Ross. Hits it hard. Right to Anthony Rizzo. 2 down here in the 6th. The item of the homestand is the Majestic Authentic Collection Featherweight Fleece. Visit the main team store through tomorrow's game for 50% off. Nationals.com/store for more store information. That's while supplies last. Some restrictions apply. Denard Span 0 for 2, walked his last time. And he was on the front end of a 4-6-3 double play when Roger Bernardina absolutely slammed the ball with the second baseman, Darwin Barney. You know, the Cubs were still in the game. It was 4-2 with 2 outs and the bases empty last inning. But Samardzija walked Zimmerman with 2 outs. LaRoche base hit. Desmond double. Espinosa double. Bang. It's 7-2 before you can blink. This one out to short for Starlin Castro. Nats go in order in the 6th against Hector Rondon. Pitch is 52 in the zone. They'll face the bottom 3 for the Cubs. And remember our Washington, D.C. Lexus dealers donating $250 to the Children's National Medical Center every time a National hits a home run. Ian Desmond, number 5 tonight. Nats have hit 32. It's for a wonderful cause, and that's from Lexus, the pursuit of perfection. Yeah, how about a perfect night, too? Single, 2-run homer, RBI double. So here's Detwiler, longest inning, 20 pitches when he gave up those 3 hits. But that was the inning in which Bernardina and Suzuki teamed up for that fabulous play at the plate, keeping the Cubs from scoring more than 1 run and taking the lead.
It just took your incredibly sharp partner to figure out that Ian Desmond needs a triple for the cycle.
Hope he didn't jinx him.
You jinx him? Don't put him up. You jinxed him by saying jinx. Infinity. Triple shy.
It's not my jinx.
It's not a perfect game. He's going for the cycle. You jinx him. Stop it.
One ball and 2 strikes to Ryan Sweeney. He has singled to the right side and grounded out to Espinosa. And that ball driven to right center. Right off the wall out there. At the end of the scoreboard, it's another double.
Shocking. 9th double of the game, 6th double of the game for the Cubs. Dave McKay, loneliest guy in the world, first base coach for the Cubs tonight. Good swing right here from Ryan Sweeney. Good extension. Throw the bat head. Nice balance after his swing. DENARD Span plays it perfectly on a hop. Nobody for Chicago stopping at first tonight. First base highly overrated.
That's in front of the runner. Desmond will throw out Darwin Barney as Ryan Sweeney has to freeze.
I'll tell you what, good teams do the little things to win games. The Cubs have had 3 leadoff doubles tonight, 4 leadoff doubles, excuse me, and only 1 has been moved. A Cody Ransom tapper back to the mound in the first to get Starlin Castro to third. Anthony Rizzo grounded out to second for the Cubs' first run. But a leadoff double in the third, stranded. Leadoff double in the fourth, stranded. And now a leadoff double here in the 7th, not moved to third.
Yep.
You have to execute in this game offensively and do the little things if you're going to win baseball games. The Cubs haven't done it here tonight.
And the Cubs defense leading the major league in errors. Made 1 tonight, cost him 2 runs. This is 27-year-old Julio Borbon, who's from Starkville, Mississippi. Played at the University of Tennessee. And a .284 hitter in parts of 4 years with Texas. The Cubs picked him off waivers from the Rangers April 19th. I mean, they were dominating the waiver wire in the month of April. Interesting, they came out of spring training and in the span of a couple of weeks claimed 3 players off waivers that are with the major league club. You just don't see that. LaRoche racing to the bag to beat him. 2 outs.
A little thing right there. Ross Detwiler late to first base. Adam LaRoche had to hustle to get to the base. I don't know if Ross Detwiler's getting tired right here or pulled something getting over. Let's keep an eye on Ross because there's a little meeting at the mound right now. Yeah, you see him wince right there? A little grimace from Detwiler. Kurt Suzuki at the mound. Adam LaRoche on the mound. Here comes Davey Johnson. I would imagine one of the trainers right behind him, and that's going to be it. Davey going to the bullpen.
Yeah, and it's the 2nd time tonight that Ross has been late on a ball over there. So they'll go to Craig Stammen right here. And, hey, you're up by 5, 7th inning. Get him out, getting some treatment if he needs it. This call to the bullpen, packaged by the UPS Store. We love logistics in a good hand for Ross Detwiler.
Nats Park, just a great crowd here. Serious buzz in the ballpark, and 7 runs and a tons of extra base hits will do that for you. Let's check out Ross Detwiler right here getting over. Check out the facial expression, folks. Right about there, just a little wince from Detwiler, so we won't assume anything, but I think you can see it for yourself, something going on there, trying to cover first.
Craig Stammen, 10th game. Look at the strikeout to walk ratio, better than 4-1. League hitting .220 against him. You ask him to do something, whatever inning, he'll do it. In this case, top of the order, he'll face Starlin Castro of the Cubs. Fastball at 91, just missing. So Ross Detwiler, 6 2/3, 8 hits. Didn't walk anybody. 2 strikeouts, 90 pitches, 57 strikes. And the most runs he could be responsible for, 3.
Well, if it's a 2-1 game and he leaves it, everyone's saying, well, he was up with the ball tonight, gave up a lot of doubles, but what a difference some offensive support makes when you're a pitcher. 7 runs for Ross Detwiler tonight. Did a nice job of just going after Cubs hitters with that big lead.
Starlin Castro 0 for 2 career against Craig Stammen. Runner at third, 2 outs. And then he throws the slider and misses away. Leadoff double for Ryan Sweeney. Stayed at second on one grounder, moved over on another. Fastball whistles inside, 3-1. Nats ERA 1.84 over the last 22 games. And a bounce it is short. And the bullpen still hasn't given up a run in the month of May. 6 outs to get, but Stammen gets things going for the bullpen. Beautiful look into Nationals Park.
I think it's from my condo.
Mercedes-Benz of Alexandria. Cubs 6 doubles. They haven't advanced many of them. Scored just a couple of runs. Kurt Suzuki, a big blow early. Ian Desmond, the big blow of the game a little later, 4th inning, on a bullet after he got an infield hit first time up.
He's a triple shy of the cycle, Bob. Single, infield variety, home run over the fence variety, and a double down the line variety. And now he's trying to find a gap. His Nats fans hit the high note.
This call to the bullpen, packaged by the UPS store. We love logistics. After 12 years in the country of Japan, 32-year-old Kyuji Fujikawa just reactivated by the Cubs today off the DL. Gets the call here in the bottom of the 7th.
The opponent's hitting .381 against Fujikawa this year. Those numbers almost have to go down.
Muscle strain, right forearm, April 13th. Just got off the DL. Nearly a month later.
Yeah, 4-pitch guy, fastball, cutter, curveball, split. Primarily fastball and split.
Made his major league debut, as I would say, in Japan at the age of 19. Pitched his entire career over there with the Hanshin Tigers. 48 games last year in relief. And the breaking ball off speed, low and inside, 1 ball, 1 strike.
Not afraid of the sideburns either. That is in the scouting report as well.
I missed that part.
Yeah, it's right here. I got it.
That's a good fastball at the knees. Roger Bernardina could only look at it. Bernardina 0 for 3 tonight. That's a late swing on 94, 1 out. Here's the Nats box score. Multi-hit games, LaRoche, Desmond. And then some good production from the bottom of the order when Danny Espinosa followed Desmond's RBI with a 2-run double off the wall. That really capped off that 3-run 5th inning. That ball's well hit by Zimmerman, slicing near the pole and foul into the corner. Great crowd tonight. 37,191. That'll bring the Nationals average up well over 32,000 for the year. The Nats are in the top 6 in the league in average attendance. They have a big crowd tomorrow. Strasburg and Edwin Jackson, and then Gio on Sunday.
It's a Friday night ticket, though. You know, it's got a different feel in the ballpark. End of a long, hard work week. Come to the yard and have a good time. And this place has been rocking since before the game.
I would imagine a certain number is on everybody's standby list for tonight for some pizza. If Washington holds on to win, 7 on the board.
Oh, yeah. Forgot all about that. You know, I'm ADD. You get halfway through that read and I'm gone.
We'll keep it. We'll give you the short ones.
Yeah, can you condense it for the guy that can't concentrate very long?
Adam LaRoche. Zimmerman 0 for 2 with a walk. A big walk it was, though. And Ryan taking some good hacks here against Fujikawa. Bottom of the 7th inning. Nats trying to win their 20th game of the year and go to 5 over 500. Trying to make it 5 in a row. .83 on the curveball, way outside, 1-2. Cubs actually even over the years here at Nationals Park with the Nats. That's because it was 3 years ago, right out of the All-Star break, Jim Riggleman's first 4 games, they swept the Nats here. It's a changeup or a backup breaking ball that stayed up and in, 2-2. Nissan will track it.
Well, it's a split changeup right here, just kind of hanging backed up.
By the way, this weekend, sign and drive during Nissan's sign and drive event. Shop ChooseNissan.com. 2-2 to Ryan. Bases empty, 1 out.
Some pretty good rips in.
2 balls, 2 strikes. Off speed, Ryan waits for it. He's got a base hit to left.
Let me guess, double?
He's going. Soriano's always had a good arm out there. And Ryan Zimmerman's out at second base.
He was in there. His foot beat the tag. Davey Johnson coming out of the Nats dugouts. I don't think this was close, and we're far away, folks. That did not look close to me. I don't think Davey Johnson thought it was close either.
By the way, this is a rookie umpire, John Trumpain, who we've never seen in a big league game. And there was a brief discussion.
But you know how he got in there is Ryan Zimmerman never argues. Yeah, foot there, tag late, not even close. I don't know what you're looking at. Watch the foot. On the base, tag. And that angle made it look a little bit closer. This will be more definitive. Yeah, I got tagged. I don't even know if he got tagged. It was between his legs. Here's the money shot right here. Look at foot on the bag. Well, that one made it look a little closer, and if we had to watch 4 times, you got to give him benefit of the doubt.
Bases empty, 2 outs. Here's Adam LaRoche, who's 2 for 3.
It's hard to tell in the replay. You can't get on and up for that.
This one popped a mile high, left side of the infield. STARLIN, Castro. The Nats go not exactly 1, 2, 3, but 3 batters. 7th inning brought to you by Hyundai's Easy Decision event. Visit your Washington area Hyundai dealers today. An unhappy crowd still booing. 37,191. They won more than 7 runs tonight. He's 0-5 with the Cubs, 6.39 ERA, 10-11 for the Nationals last year. Steven Strasburg, 1.35 earned run average at home, trying to win his 2nd decision of the year. He'll take on the Cubs. Nats Extra 3:30. Johnny and Ray here at the ballpark. We'll take over in the booth at 4, and then first pitch at 4:05. Top of the 8th inning, Craig Stammen, and he will be facing left-handed hitting infielder Luis Valbuena, who will hit for Cody Ransom. Now that the Nats are employing their bullpen, Dale Swaim can use all the left-handed bats he did not have in his lineup tonight. So Valbuena at 270. '27-year-old left-handed hitting infielder from Venezuela. And the Cubs got him off waivers, but that was last year.
There's the now you see it, now you don't slider from Craig Stammen.
Valbuena 0 for 3 as a pinch hitter this year. And Stammen pulling the string there a little bit, got a foul tip. That is nasty. In the dirt. And Stammen retires, his second consecutive hitter.
Yeah, same pitch. Slider in the dirt. How many times have you seen Craig Stammen throw one for a strike, then bounce one? Hitter sees rotation, has to commit because he's already established it in the strike zone. And Valbuena way out in front of that one.
Anthony Rizzo, 1 for 3. RBI ground ball. Good-looking young hitter, 2 for 4. I think that kid's going to be a star in Chicago over the next 5 years. The ballpark, when the weather warms up, that is among the most hitter-friendly in baseball.
Oh, funny, he made that little adjustment from the Padres to the Cubs where he's dropped his hands down. And Padres, he had him right around his ear flap. Now he's got him almost in his belt buckle, and it's freed him up and allowed him to get to the inside pitch and drive it.
1 on, 1 out. Soriano, the hitter, 0 for 3. Alfonso has fouled out, struck out, fly to right. See your authorized Dodge dealer? I'll go to Dodge.com. Check out the powerful lineup. Dodge takes us inside the numbers. Amazing season with the Nationals, and he set a whole bunch of records. Look at the plate appearances. I guess Bryce Harper might be the man who challenges a bunch of those. Bryce already on pace to break the slugging percentage record, but somebody's going to have to hit almost 50 home runs to break that single season record by Alfonso back in 06. And I mean, RFK, not a home run ballpark at all. 330 down the lines, 380 to 390 in the gaps. And he made it play pretty small. I would estimate he hit probably 5 or 6 upper deck home runs that year at home. 1 ball, 2 strikes. He also had, I think, double figure outfield assists. That was the first year he ever played in left field. Tyler Clippard to follow Stammen. Maybe in the 9th. Craig took a little bit off there. 80 miles an hour. Soriano out ahead.
I went to spring training with Soriano when he was with the Yankees. And I picked up his bat, and it's huge. I mean, it's like swinging the left field foul pole. It's 35 or 36 inches, 35 ounces, or at least it was back then. And I just always marveled how he got that bat head out. But when he does, there's some serious damage.
His minor leagues were in Japan. He signed in '94 with Hiroshima at the age of 18, and he played 3 years over there, driving in 104 runs. Signed with the Yankees as a free agent in '98, and he was there for 5 years before going to Texas and then coming to Washington. Went from the Yankees to Texas in the A-Rod deal. Oh, that's a good breaking ball by Craig Stammen. He can make some right-handed hitters look pretty bad, and that time he did.
And slider sliding right here. Starts over the plate, looks like a strike, breaks down and away.
Another strikeout tonight. Not a lot. Detwiler just had a couple, but that's fine. $37 for each one to the Children's Inn at the National Institutes of Health for every strikeout by a Nationals pitcher this season, thanks to Toyota's K's for Kids. Hairston being pinch hit for now by Nate Schierholtz. He'll slap it. Danny Espinosa to his left. Good reaction play. The hot corner moved over to that side for one swing. This one, bottom of the 8th coming up.
And we're going to go back to the 4th inning. Ian Desmond got a slider out over from Jeff SAMARDZIJA. Looking fastball, caught it out front, rode it into the left field bleachers for his 5th home run of the year, his 14th RBI of the year, and he's hunting a triple right here for the cycle. This Drive of the Game is brought to you by Kia. Visit Kia.com to learn why Kia is one of the fastest growing car brands in America.
Slots, tables, and dining. Ultimate triple play. Hollywood Casino, Charlestown Races. Well, the guys who are up there in league ranks, leading the way with the bat, saving games, hitting line drives, extra base hits, you name it. Harper, Desmond, and Soriano have done it. So here's Ian Desmond facing 37-year-old Sean Camp. 80 games for the Cubs last year. And Desmond goes up swinging to Hopper over to Valbuena at third base. So he didn't hit that gapper and have to make that decision whether to stop at second or keep going.
So you're trying to make a point that I jinxed him right there? Is that what you're doing?
No, you said I jinxed him.
Maybe I did. 7-2.
I'll tell you one thing with Ian, it was going to happen one way or the other really quick in a 7-2 game. Luis Valbuena stays in to play third base. And Nate Scherholtz in right. Danny Espinosa, high chopper right side. Unfortunately for him, right to the bag, and Anthony Rizzo, 2 quick outs. Every out-of-market game live online on your favorite mobile and connected device, HD quality. That's MLB.TV Premium. MLB.TV, baseball everywhere, celebrating its 11th year. Join the millions who have subscribed. Looks like Henry Rodriguez for the 9th now. Good mop-up situation to give him some work. After Craig Stammen goes an inning and a third, he gets 4 outs and threw only 18 pitches in doing it. In the air to right. Scherholtz. It's a 1-2-3 bottom of the 8th inning. The Nats 3 outs away from 5 in a row. To you by PNC Bank, for the achiever in you. By DentaQuest, who reminds you to smile. It's Friday. Affordable coverage for priceless smiles. Ask your broker about DentaQuest. And by USAA, proudly serving the financial needs of current and former military members and their families. Beautiful Friday night on the banks of the Anacostia. Inside Nationals Park, Castillo, Sweeney, and Barney. And Craig Stammen takes the mound for the 9th inning to close this thing out. As I mentioned, he's only thrown 18 pitches, FP.
Well, if he does, it's a save, right?
No, he came in with 2 outs in the 7th.
Like I said, if he does, it's a nice outing, right?
It's a really nice outing. Nats did have a 3-inning save last year in a blowout game. Tom Gorzolani had one out in San Diego. It's kind of a rare thing. Castillo 0 for 3. And a breaking ball, busted bat to the left side. Ryan Zimmerman launching it over to Adam LaRoche for the first out.
It is time for your head and shoulders whiff, and we're going to go back to last inning. Luis Valbuena facing Craig Stammen. First pitch, fastball on the black. Angel Hernandez loved it. And he goes slider in the dirt. Kurt Suzuki tried to block it. A little curveball down right there, and then a little foul tip off the hand of Kurt Suzuki, and into the slider in the dirt for strike 3.
Ryan Sweeney, the hitter, and Stammen paints with a fastball. Cubs have 1 hit since the 5th inning. This Washington bullpen has been spectacular lately. Let's you grab a couple of ducats for tomorrow. Nationals.com, 4 o'clock game. Steven Strasburg and Edwin Jackson. Boy, you had a good feeling about the weekend if the Nats could hang a loss on Jeff Samardzija tonight, and they're 2 outs away from doing that.
And curveball's been good from Stammen tonight.
And he goes that hard slider down and in. Not an easy take. Inside the numbers with Dodge. I mean, they're just, the league just not hitting much of anything that he has. Check it out, Dodge.com, or go see your authorized Dodge dealer. Well, he irritates himself a bit by walking that hitter with 1 out in the 9th. That is the first walk issued by the Nats tonight. This copyrighted telecast presented by authority of the Washington Nationals Baseball Club and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Washington Nationals. Darwin Barney, the hitter. Barney tonight 0 for 3. David DeJesus, longtime American leaguer, on deck for the Cubs. Fair ball down the line. Digging for third, Sweeney. Another double for Chicago. Second and third, 1 out.
7th double of the night, is that right, for the Cubs?
Yeah, and I believe 11 overall, right?
Yeah.
Crazy.
And the Nats need some outs for obvious reasons right now, but there's some thunderstorms knocking on the door to D.C., and you want to get this game in the books as quick as you can.
Steve McCaddy on his way to the mound.
Being told the Diamondbacks and the Indians both had 7 doubles in a game this year, and that ties a season high. Cubs have been pressed offensively tonight.
You know, they came into this game, they've been swinging the bats well at home, and now Soriano, because if they load the bases, the tying run's in the on-deck circle, making it a save situation. Kind of hoping Soriano would get a night off. He was busy against the Tigers, and then your bullpen would really be well rested and set up for the weekend. We'll see if Stammen can close things out against David DeJesus. Who's hitting .274 with 4 home runs, 0 for 6 as a pinch hitter. Stammen tails that fastball. they'll score a run. The Nats will gladly trade it for an out. And that's the first run the bullpen has given up this month. And it's the 10th of May. Now a 7-3 game. Comes down to Starlin Castro against Craig Stammen. Castro 0 for 2 career against him. Starting to feel a breeze kick up here. Ground ball Zimmerman. Couple of crow hops, game over. And the Nats have won 5 in a row. 3-0 on this homestand. Weekend off to a great start. And Ian Desmond had a big night with 3 RBIs. Washington is 20-15 on the year. The Nats are on a roll. And 2 more to go this weekend against the Cubs.